Hi, Greg.
Hey Cam, what's up, man?
I'm really excited to create all of this new content today. And also, I thought this was the best opportunity we had to interview you about a concept that I hear you talk about only every time I see you present. So when I go and see you at Automation Lab or at a conference or just generally talking to the Monkeypod community, there's this expression that you use very, very frequently, which is that you should give your technology a job description.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you can just help me understand why that particular theme transcends so much of the content that I see you create and the presentations I see you give.
I only have a handful of smart things that I say, so I like to just cycle through them on repeat. And no, the truth is, I've been in this space, the small business community, the Keep community for 12 plus years now. And a common theme that I have helped individuals grapple with or, mentally adopt a new perspective on is thinking through the relationship you have with the tools that we subscribe to. Predominantly Keep, but the same logic applies to any other SaaS program that you might rely on. I think it is really tempting to just treat it as an expense. I pay for this software, and so it lives on the monthly expenses that I reconcile with my other, normal business expenditures. But the challenge with that is that sort of if you treat it as an expense, at some juncture, you're going to want to reduce expenses for your business. It shows up on the chopping block on the list of potential things that you would want to remove. And that's not bad. It's just potentially dangerous because I don't think you're giving that relationship the right weight. And so the reframe that I have recommended for people is instead of treating it as just a software that you subscribe to and is an expense that you pay every month or every year or however often you pay it, is to think of it as an employee that you have hired. And in doing so, quantifying the value that it provides for you by articulating a job description for it. So let's take Keep, for example. Keep has, let's say, I honestly don't know how many features there are in it, but let's say there's 1,000 or maybe 100. We'll use a round number of 100. If you're only using a portion of those features, and we all are, then it creates this value gap between 100% of its features and the number that you're using. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50. And that is always going to leave you with some perception of underperformance because you're comparing it to an unattainable standard, which is 100% use. And that leads you to be regularly frustrated because you're paying for this, but there's a portion of it you're not using. And so the benefit of reframing it as a employee is no employee is giving you 100% of their focus, 100% of their time, 100% of their skills. They are tackling 100% of the job description you have cast for them or that you have specifically hired them into. And that's the agreement that you set out on when you hired that employee. So if you do the same sort of thing for your software, articulate, Keep is going to manage my contacts. It's going to follow up with them. It's going to help me process transactions and give me greater insight into my pipeline. Well, now we know the core functions that we are paying this for, and it becomes easier for us to quantify the ROI that we're getting from that tool. I know what I pay for Keep. I know that what the job description is, and it's doing all of those things. Now, the magic here is that unlike your human employees, your software isn't going to take weekends off. It isn't going to take, vacations or sick days. It just continues to perform. And if you want to take it one level further, the way to wring extra value out of those subscriptions is to, once you've accomplished its job description, you know what you're paying for it and you know what you need in return to justify that expense.
Right.
It becomes a game of well, what else can it do? And maybe you start to explore those other features, but now it feels like that's icing on the cake rather than, dusty features that are costing me money that I'm paying for and not accessing. Now it's like, wow, this employee who's already doing the job, everything I've asked of them, is also going to manage my affiliates and is also going to integrate with my bookkeeping software and is also going to, handle scheduling or whatever the other things are. So I think that's the way I would articulate it, is like, from a business owner's peace of mind, you're constantly going to be disappointed if you're expecting to use 100% of the things that any tool can do. But if you call out and specify the role you expect it to play, you've painted a clear target, setting yourself and that tool up for success, and nothing's prohibiting you from going beyond that. The software isn't going to complain if you start to tap into those features that weren't part of its initial job description.
Yeah. As I listen to you talk about that, I think about how hiring a person for a business is probably one of the most expensive things a business owner chooses to do, especially when they're going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 3. Maybe there are businesses out there that, once you're in the many millions and you're hiring your 103rd person, maybe you're a little more analytical about it. But when you're going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, it probably feels like one of the most expensive things that you are considering.
Absolutely.
And your hope and your expectation is that you're going to get your return on investment, your money back. And I think that it's really interesting, this idea of using technology as a productive piece of the business and then measuring that, because if it is creating value, even if only using a fraction of its capabilities, if it's using value, if it's creating value, if it's creating productivity or delivery capabilities or sales capabilities that weren't there before, that expense line on the profit and loss, I think that when people look to add team members to their team, they're looking to say, okay, well, if that expense goes on my profit or loss, I really hope or expect or believe that there's a greater sum of the outcome or output of this business because we're growing the business. But to not apply that same mindset to other types of not human expenses is it's maybe a missed opportunity to map those same kinds of hopes and expectations to it.
You said human capital is like one of the more expensive investments for any small business. 100% true. And automation isn't necessarily a replacement for humans, but it can do one or two or both things. It can allow you to use your human capital more strategically because you're automating the things that aren't the best use of their time or energy or focus, right? Or it can delay your need to expand your headcount or to grow your team, right? You can say, well, I'm underwater and I'm doing everything. Our small team is doing everything we can. We need another person. Or the more you can leverage automation to take things off of their plate, the more your team's bandwidth frees up to push that need down the road until your financial situation has changed, and then you can more responsibly invest in it.
Right. And technology, especially automation technology. I know there's a lot of technology that isn't automated, as maybe just a database tool or something like that. But automation technology typically makes us better and faster at the things we're already good at. Like if we're not good at doing things in our business, then applying automation to do the wrong thing faster is not actually very effective.
Sure.
But if, say, you have a team member who's really good at making sales calls, giving them a tool that serves up sales call information faster, doesn't, like you said, you're saying it doesn't replace the human capital, but
or you use automation to get the prospects ready for the sales call so that they're not spending 45 minutes on a sales call, they're spending 25 because most of the client's questions have been addressed proactively or their concerns have been assuaged before they even pick up the phone. Right.
Or maybe you're asking questions like, if I can hire another person, will it be an assistant for my sales team or will it be another sales rep on my sales team? And maybe really great sales automation technology might make it more obvious that the investment in people can go towards a particular type of person. And we talked about giving it a job description. I think what's really interesting about that too is that in a lot of traditional workplaces, job descriptions lead to, one, how people get trained, right? How they're on ramp, how their first 30, 60, or 90 days in their job looks, right? And how they go from being moderately productive
Right.
and effective to eventually being measured as highly productive and effective. So I'm wondering your take on, does giving a job description help you measure its on-ramp, its productivity over time?
Yeah, all of those things, right? When somebody starts using Keep or any tool, there is a period of like, we've purchased this and we haven't logged in yet, to a period of like, we love this tool and it's doing everything we want of it, right? And there's incremental growth along that pathway. If you haven't articulated a job description, you don't know when you've arrived at a point of break-even ROI. You don't know when you've arrived at like the point of it's doing its job. It's a fully up-to-speed employee who no longer needs our hand-holding, right? So I think the job description gives you the benchmarks to measure the performance and success of this tool. But I was going to say a second, but I don't know how many benefits we've listed, but another benefit to this sort of framing is if you write out all of the things that Keep or a tool is doing for you, it's going to do a couple of things. It forces you to spell out the value it's providing, which might be more than you realize. You might say, oh, wow, it's also doing this and it's also doing that. And that list starts to bloat. And you're like, man, we've really piled a lot of things onto this tool. And so the perceived value it creates for you goes up. You feel better about that investment. The second thing it can do is it prompts the question, what would I pay for a human or a virtual assistant team to handle these tasks for me? And I would wager you're paying your software less than you would pay for a human to accomplish those same things. And so that anchors it. Instead of comparing, maybe it's your most expensive software subscription, but instead of comparing it to the other softwares, now you're comparing it to, well, what would it cost me to get those things done if I or my human team members or a new party had to handle those tasks, which might be a healthier way of framing up that relationship with the tool.
Absolutely. I can see how this idea of giving your technology a job description create an aha moment for somebody. Like, oh, conceptually, I get how those things relate.
Yeah.
Do you know of, or do you believe that any of the learners you've impacted through your various roles have literally done that? Like, do you think any of them have done Google Docs?
Yeah. Right.
Position overview?
Yeah.
Responsibilities, compensation, the first 30 days looks like. Do you know or believe that anyone has done that?
I certainly hope that people have done it. I believe I've had a few individuals with an email or a Facebook message here or there reach out and thank me for that recommendation and either say they plan to or have gone through it, but I don't want to be misquoted or I don't have a name to pull. So I certainly believe that framing has been useful for people, but I can't name individuals who changed their life because of it. Yeah.
Right. That's great. So for anyone listening to this, that's my challenge to you is maybe go to Microsoft Word or Google Docs and find a job description template and think about the technology and tools that you have in your business and give it a job description. And if you do that, send Greg or I an email, or if you are a Monkeypod member, post in the Monkeypod group and let us know how that exercise of creating an actual job description for your technology worked. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, man. Boom.